Alright, hello everybody. I am finally here. Let me get to my live stream so I can check. Let's see. Channel. Okay. We have Ken here. Hello, Ken. Hello, Gray Mitchell. Hello, Miss Disney Wish 2 of the Seas channel. Hello, Mark Hooper. Oh, geez, it's not going to do that, is it? Yeah, I'm actually really happy to be doing this tea time again. You know, today I have homemade crumpets with butter and honey. Oh, I knew I was forgetting something. I gotta pour the milk. Let's see. Hello, Conrad. Hello, Trace. Hello, Fun Edits. Hello, Mike. Hello, RMS Lusitania. Good to see you all. Hello, Scatino. Hey, let's build. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I have to refill the milk. I drink oat milk because I am lactose intolerant. For those of you wondering, what's that annoying background sound? It's the kettle. It's heating up water. Once the kettle is fully boiled, you won't hear that sound. So, I say that because every live stream someone asks. Let's see here. Tyler says, what is it about HMHS Britannic you don't like? It's really more about the exterior. I don't like the planned exteriors with the very massive cranes designed to lower the lifeboats. I don't really like that. I don't know. It just, when you compare it to Olympic, it's just not as pretty. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess that's just it. It's just really more of a matter of aesthetics, honestly. Doc, hello, Doc. Hey, Goofy Rolls. Yes, happy Wednesday. Gosh, I've been working really hard on this this New Orleans video I've been talking about, and it's gonna be really good. I finished writing the whole narration, and then I voiced the narration for it yesterday. But unfortunately, at the current time frame, it is gonna be a 20-minute long video. And that's too long for YouTube. Sure, there's people out there that would love to see videos of mine that are 40 minutes long. But generally speaking, if I really want a video to be seen by more people or the most amount of people, I do have to lower it down to about 15 or 16 minutes. So I'm going to have to look at what is the absolute most necessary stuff that must go in that video and then cut out the rest. So... but you know, in the future I can always do longer videos about the various subjects that I talk about. You know what, I'm gonna bring this closer. It's just that, you know, when I first introduce a subject, it's probably best I do it in the most appealing way to everybody. Because this will be the first time my channel ever covers anything that has to do with New Orleans, and there's gonna be a lot more to come, so I need to make a good impression. Alright. So for those that are new, I am pre-warming the the teapot and the teacup, since they are made of actual china, and they really are vintage from the Cunard company. And they do need to preheat, or else if I just pour straight up boiling water in them, they will crack from the thermal shock. Alright, so... Ken says, I just now noticed the original Queen Elizabeth had open bridge wings. Do you know why they made that transition from Queen Mary's closed? Let's see, I heard about it a while ago. I think it had really just more to do with getting a better view all around, because the bridge wings being closed up, they do limit, you know, your viewing angles, and you'd have to stick your head out the windows, and that's just not safe. So I think with Queen Elizabeth, they just eliminated, you know, the boxed in bridge wings, which that's the part about Queen Elizabeth I don't really like. I like the boxed in bridge wings of Queen Mary. They're old. They remind me of, you know, of like the Cunard, I'm sorry, not the Cunard, the White Star Line ships. You know, some of the White Star Line ships had those boxed in bridge wings, especially like Titanic, for instance. So that's one of the features I love about Queen Mary, but they eliminated that for Queen Elizabeth. Also, the other reason, too, is aesthetically, it's more pleasing to the eye, because, you know, Queen Elizabeth was designed to be more streamlined looking, and when you have those big boxes on the outside of the ship, it just doesn't assist with that streamlined look. So I think that's part of it, too, is that's probably the more major reason was for the streamlined look, honestly. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Gray, if you're watching, please no cussing. My channel isn't exactly always geared towards adults, but there are a lot of kids here, and yeah. Doc says, yes, we love longer videos. I know, I like making the longer videos, I really do, but I can't make as many of them or else less people watch them. So, Dangerous Brian says, make it in 2 parts. I've thought about that, but what happens is people don't come back for the second part. Even like when I made my 3-part series about Queen Mary in World War II, most people didn't return for like part 3. It's actually kind of funny. People didn't watch part 1 as much. Everybody watched part 2. Part 2 was the most popular of the 3. So people would, you know, people who never know anything about my channel, they see it in their lineup and they go, oh, that's interesting. They watch it. They watch this, you know, 17-minute long video. And then they go, oh, well, that's pretty cool. And then they don't bother to look to see if there was a part 1 or a part 3. And so that's kind of the problem with doing multi-part videos, is that I want more people to see my channel, and when they come in the middle of the story and then they don't finish, or they don't even begin the story as it should be, you know, it does kind of create a continuity issue, and then those people don't subscribe because they think that there is an inherent continuity issue. So, you know, and it's funny because I would do more multi-part videos if that wasn't the case, you know. Because I did that a lot with a lot of different videos. My Haunted Mansion video, my Matterhorn video, my video about the Disneyland Railroad. A lot of those are multi-part videos. So, let's see. Tyler says, is it the shade deck on Britannic's stern and the gantry davits were designed to put more space on the boat deck? I know why they did all that. It's just I don't like the way it looks. That's all. It's really just an aesthetic thing. It has nothing to do with the design of the ship in terms of its operational, you know, capabilities. It's really just an aesthetic thing for me. Goofy Roll says, has New Orleans changed much in the last 100 years? I love its old world charm. Let's say last 100 years would make it 1922. So I would say the rest of the city, yes, but my city about New Orleans, my video about New Orleans is actually going to be more specifically geared to the French Quarter, because largely New Orleans is a new city compared to the French Quarter, and I like old stuff. So my video is really about the French Quarter and the challenges it's faced over the years, and it'll be like a historical retelling of how the French Quarter was made. And it's very necessary to tell that whole story in order to bring people to the issue it faced in the 1920s. So I thought that was really cool. And I when I finished writing it and I put it together, I thought it was really interesting. I think you guys will like it a lot. I just hope people watch it, Let's Build says, I mean, I would love longer videos, but shorter is sometimes better, even though I love to listen to stuff while I build stuff and do stuff in general. Yeah. It's like I said, I would love to make longer videos, but not as many people watch them, so I try to space them out. If I do a really long video, I try to space it out with some short videos. The other thing, too, is that longer videos take longer to make, and this channel is a business. I'm not going to lie to you. This channel is a business. I do have to produce videos every once in a while to make back the money it costs to run the channel. So I can't always take my time, So, yeah, it's always a balancing act, honestly. Trying to ensure high quality while still producing videos at a fast enough rate that people will keep watching. So, it is really difficult. Hello, Gray. Doc says, I just binged all the Disney stuff, so relaxing, and your storytelling is supreme. I understand you have to go by what gets the most views. I'm in my 30s. LOL, old, so a pre-TikToker. Yeah, I'm in my 30s, too. Yeah, it's funny, because, like, a lot of people wonder why I don't have, like, an Instagram or a TikTok or a Twitter or whatever. Frankly, I'm not part of that generation. Like, I mean, maybe I am. I am a millennial, technically, but I don't know what it is. My friend always jokes that I'm a boomer. He's always calling me a boomer. But that's just how I am. Like, I'm not into the whole social media craze. I had an Instagram. I didn't really know what to post. I didn't even know how to work Instagram. I was looking at, like, how-to videos on how to, like, understand Instagram, and I still couldn't get it. And then I was, Twitter, I don't like the way people are on Twitter. Twitter is really toxic. I have a Facebook, but I'm not on it very much because, again, social media, not my thing. And TikTok, don't even, I do not want to do a TikTok at all. So maybe that makes it harder for me to run a YouTube channel because I'm not doing that. But at the same time, it's like, that's not me. That's not who I am. Me trying to run a TikTok or an Instagram is going to seem so awkward to other people who watch that stuff because I'm not in, with the crowd. So that switch track needs to be cleaned. It keeps stopping. All right. Well, it's time to start brewing the tea. Let me put that there. Daniel says, hey, Alex, why does the front of Queen Mary's cabin look different from Queen Elizabeth? The front of Queen Mary's cabin? I don't know what you mean. A cabin is a room aboard the Queen Mary. So I'm not really sure what you mean in front of the Queen Mary's cabin. There we go. Pour the boiling water in. Alright. Now, today is going to be English breakfast tea, so it'll only need to, well, it'll brew for 5 minutes. So, 424. Alright. So yeah, today is homemade crumpets with butter and honey. For those that don't know, crumpets are... They're like, for my American friends, they're like English muffins, except instead of like dry and chewy, I would say, they're more moist and soft like a pancake. But they still retain that bread flavor. And you usually prepare them the way you would with toast. So you can have them with butter and jam, or some people recommended butter and honey, and frankly I prefer butter and honey because it's easier to drizzle honey on it than to like try to slather jam on it. So so there's that, and then I have my usuals. So I have Scottish shortbread, which should be on the left of the plate to you guys, and then on the right is the chocolate covered tea biscuits, which are also called McVitie's digestives. So while I buy the digestives and have them, you know, I buy them from Amazon, the Scottish shortbread I make myself because it's just cheaper that way. Let's see. Gray says, do you think sinking Titanic is dumb? Like on the video games? I don't think it's dumb. I think it's insensitive. But I don't think it's not dumb. Dumb isn't the right word for it. It's insensitive, I think. You know, I don't know. It would be like creating a game where you have to survive the World Trade Center, you know, collapsing. It's just not. It's in poor taste, I think. So. Let's see, Haley. Hello, Haley. Fun Edit says, Alex, what's your favorite city? Well, I've only been to a few big cities in my life, mostly on the West Coast. I've been to Atlanta, but not really explored it much. So, I mean, I've been to Orlando and Tampa. Actually, I've been to a lot of major cities, but I've never explored them much. I think I explored a lot of Tampa. But on the West Coast, I've been to all the biggest cities. You know, San Diego, L.A. I used to live in the L.A. area. San Francisco, you know. I live here in Portland, and I've been to Seattle as well. What's my favorite city? I'm going to say of the ones I've been to, is San Francisco. And the reason I say that is because pretty much almost everywhere you go in the city is worthy of a photograph. It's very photogenic. And also there's a lot of history there. A lot of it dates back to the 1850s and especially the late Victorian era. So it's really cool. I like older cities, you know. In the United States, obviously, our country's only really been around for 200 some odd years. So our history is not as old as it would be in Europe or the UK or whatever. But for us, that's old, you know. I've never been to New Orleans, but I do imagine that it would be my favorite city once I go there. But it's funny, it would be my favorite not for the same reasons that San Francisco is my favorite. San Francisco is my favorite because it's a very... How do I say this without insulting New Orleans? Again, it's a very photogenic city, San Francisco. There's lots of hills, it's surrounded by water, it's this beautiful landscape with you know, beautiful bridges and giant, vast, lush green city parks and Victorian architecture everywhere. You know, and then there's a lot to do there as well. And because the city is so compact, I mean, it's a big city, but it's still compact. And so a lot of the things you can do to have fun are relatively close together. I walked San Francisco. When I would visit there, we wouldn't like, you know, rent an Uber or a towel. We didn't have Uber back then. We had taxis. So we wouldn't like, you know, get taxis or anything. We would just walk because it was easy, you know. But the reason why I would probably put New Orleans into my new favorite once I go there is all about the French Quarter. So that's really it. Like, I mean, maybe the Garden District a little bit, but the rest of the city, it's not, you know, it's not that amazingly historical compared to the French Quarter. So, but the French Quarter, I think, might bump my love for New Orleans over to number one. And it's probably because not necessarily that everything is photogenic. I mean, granted, the French Quarter is very photogenic. But it's the fact that it's much older than San Francisco. There's this beautiful, unique architecture you can't really find anywhere else in the world. And then I've always been a fan of, you know, stories about the creatures of the night, you know, everything from ghosts to vampires and things like that. That stuff is always fun. I'm not going to say I believe in all of it, but it's fun. And New Orleans is known for that. It's known for its lore of ghosts and witches and vampires. So that's probably why. And so when I look at images of the French Quarter, it just reminds me of an old world, you know, surviving on new soil. So it's fascinating. Ow! That is really hot. Come on. You know, I'll be right back. I'm going to clean that switch track because the train keeps stopping on it, and I don't want to turn around every 10 seconds and fix that. So hold on. Alright, that should do it. There we go. It's fine. Ah, geez, that was going to bother me. I hate having to turn around and shake the train table to make it move. Alright, so, let's see. The tea is brewed. Let me dump this out and I'll start preparing a cup. So let's see. RMS Lusitania asks, what ship sinking had more deaths than Titanic or Lusitania? Oh, easily Lancastria. And even more than that, Wilhelm Gustloff, sorry. Wilhelm Gustloff had the most deaths of all time of any ship that has sunk or experienced tragedy. So, yeah. Okay. Ooh, that lid is really hot, and it's burning my finger. I have to be really careful. So even if I'm burning myself, I have to be really careful because they don't make this stuff anymore, you know? They stopped making it in 1967. So if I break anything, there's no replacing it. All right, so this looks like really strong tea. I'm probably going to regret that. You know, I was really lazy today. I usually use measuring spoons to measure out the amount of tea that I use. And for the teapot, it's 2.5 teaspoons of tea. But I was really lazy today. And the measuring spoons were in the sink. They were dirty. They needed to be washed and dried. I didn't feel like it. So I decided to eyeball it. And the tea looks really strong. So I'm probably going to have to dilute it a bit with some water. But that's the cool thing about tea. You can dilute it with hot water. I mean, that's the whole reason why they used to give you these hot water jugs. Make sure there's not a spider in here. So that's why they used to give you these hot water jugs. So that way you would have extra hot water and you could dilute your tea or coffee or whatever it was you were drinking. All right, so stir this. Remember the old days when I started this stream thing, and then I would always spill the milk out of this thing because I always hesitated with it. Now I'm just become a professional at pouring the milk into the tea. Yeah, this is definitely extra strong because normally this turns into a light tan color when I pour the milk in, and it's still this very dark, like roux color. I'm going to need to dilute it, that's for sure. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's really strong. Ooh. Well, that'll wake you up. Okay. What's my favorite superhero? Technically, my favorite superhero isn't technically a superhero, but I love the Ninja Turtles. I don't know why. I guess they reminded me of me when I was a kid. Yeah, I guess so. I love the Ninja Turtles, but yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole. It's a long story. Haley asks, what's your favorite land in Disneyland? My favorite land in Disneyland is New Orleans Square, because it reminds me of the French Quarter. It's a very beautiful land in the park. And what's really cool about Disneyland's New Orleans Square, because I know a lot of people are used to thinking, oh, theme parks, they're just, tacky, facades of things. New Orleans Square is not like that at all. I mean, one could say Main Street USA and Disneyland is as close to authentic replication of an old town. Well, New Orleans Square is even closer. New Orleans Square was designed to exactly mimic the French Quarter. They mimicked it all the way down to the spikes on the poles that were designed to keep away rapacious men from climbing up to the second level where the women were. They replicated the decorative Spanish wrought iron symbols that were plastered into the walls. They replicated the old, 18th century cast iron plaques that used to tell the fire department this house pays their fire tax, so save this house first if it catches fire. They've replicated all of that in New Orleans Square. It is one of... It may not be the same gridlock shape... Not gridlock, but the same grid shape as the French Quarter, but it does replicate it very well. And it's a beautiful land. So I love New Orleans Square at Disneyland. Gray says, what's your favorite meme? I don't know. What's your favorite planet? Earth. I'm not much of not into astronomy that much, so Earth is my favorite planet. I'm a lot like, David Attenborough. They asked him, they said, how come you never do documentaries on space? And he goes, because I think Earth is way more fascinating. He says, we're already here. We have access to these places and these beautiful things without having to wear suits and helmets and blast off into spaceships. So he's, so I felt like I agreed with him 100%. I'm more fascinated by Earth than I am the solar system. So, oh, Tyler, that's funny. You saw the live stream. That's pretty cool. Grace says, what's your favorite cruise ship? I don't have one. I don't like cruise ships. Doc says, as a psychologist, I can say SM actually is bad for you. SM? I'm sorry, I don't know what SM is. Goofy Rolls says, you have a good soul. Oh, thank you very much. I try. Let's Build says, has there been any thoughts on bringing Queen Mary inland, and how is Queen Mary doing? You know, I would be really surprised if anyone could bring a ship inland. I don't think it's ever been done before. Because you have to remember, Queen Mary is not a little boat. She's not a yacht. You know, she's huge. She is the size of 4 city blocks with a width that exceeds the width of most city streets in the U.S. You know, when it comes to her actual weight, she's well over, I want to say, 50,000 tons. Is it 50 or is it 90? It's 90,000, sorry. She's well over 90,000 tons when it comes to actual physical weight. That still seems like not a lot. Maybe I'm getting that number wrong. You know, she's a big ship. Where are you going to put her? You can't put her inland anywhere. How would you move something that big? It's like laying a skyscraper on its side and trying to navigate it through the land. You can't. It's not doable, you know. So you can cut a ship up into little pieces, you know, but that would result in a lot of permanent damage to the Queen Mary. Even when they stitched her back up, she won't be the same again. So it's not a good idea to bring a ship inland. So History of Swag says, what's your favorite kind of tea? My favorite is Earl Grey. Linda Solis says, hey Alex, happy tea time. You are an old soul. I'm 63 and I hate TikTok and Instagram. Yeah, I am an old soul, honestly. RMS Mauretania says, what year were you born? 1992. Tyler says, I believe he meant superstructure. I'm not sure who you're talking about. See, I read this stuff, like, I try to get to most people's comments. So while I'm talking right now, I'm answering people's questions that they asked maybe 15 minutes ago. So sometimes when you respond to me, I don't exactly know what we're talking about in that moment unless there's context there. Let's see. Conrad says, how about marmalade in addition to honey or jam on the crumpets? Marmalade is perfectly, yeah, I think that'd be perfectly fine. History of Swag says, has anyone heard of Ocean Liner Designs? I feel like most Ocean Liner fans have heard of him because he's a very, he may not have, you know, 200,000 subscribers like some do, but his stuff is seen by everybody. I think everybody knows who he is to some degree, and his channel. Oliver says, hey guys, I just joined. What I miss? Nothing much. Doc says you have to visit Savannah. I'm guessing you mean Savannah, Georgia. Tyler says, what about zombies? Any zombies in New Orleans? I don't think they have any zombie history stories in New Orleans. Mostly just the typical vampires and witches. Empire of Waterloo says, hi Alex, how's it going? This morning I had Irish breakfast tea and I just had some Earl Grey London Fog foamed milk tea for tea time. Since you started your live streams, I've loved doing tea time. It's really nice, you know. There is something to it. It's a great way to kind of relax and just kind of get away. You know, like, I started doing these tea times because I was working nonstop from morning to nighttime on my channel, just making videos all the time. And I felt like I needed a time to, like, take a break and just get away, like, from the computer and talk about something that's fun. And I thought, why don't I bring people in on this and, like, do something? And so Yeah, and I wanted to also, admittedly, show off show off my tea service collection. Um, so I thought, you know, what good is having this stuff if you can't show it off to people, and what good is having an interest in ocean liners and trains and Disneyland and, you know, and architecture if you can't talk about it with anybody. So that's why I'd started doing this tea time, you know. It's a way for me to connect with people. Conrad says, seeing San Francisco from the east via the old or new Bay Bridge, especially the first time, was magical. It was a miniature city. It really is, you know, like, it's 7 miles by 7 miles. So in terms of cities, it is quite small, but it's so compact. You know, they've really stuffed a lot of people into a small space. Okay, time to have some of these crumpets. I have to get a napkin ready because they're covered in honey, so they're quite sticky. Oliver says, I visited New Orleans when I traveled to the U.S. in 2018. That's cool. Yeah, I really want to go. I'll probably be going with my friend Chris in spring. So it's not that inexpensive of a trip, it turned out, you know, and we could be there for a week and film a whole bunch of stuff for my channel and stuff. So, you know, just all kinds of things. Not just history videos and not just walkthroughs, but also vlogs and things, and, you know, and just experiences of being there. Eternal Travel says, I'm back. Just got back from a 50s style diner. Awesome. Matthew says, what got you into the history of ships? Well, more specifically, ocean liners. I'm not into, like, World War II ships or sailing ships. But what got me interested in ocean liners was learning about the RMS Queen Mary. Fun Edit says, Alex, what's your favorite funnel design? The 1930s designs or 2022? Well, when you use years like that, you're making it too broad, because there are funnel designs from the 1930s I really don't like, you know. So I'm going to have to say that my favorite funnel designs are the straight stack funnels. So the kind that you would see on RMS Queen Mary, RMS Queen Elizabeth, Titanic, you know, Oceanic. I like the straight stack funnel design. Tyler, no, I didn't know it was originally supposed to be called the Adolf Hitler. Daniel says, hey Alex, I love your videos because they explain about the Queen Mary's rich history, while other videos sadly tell them about the ghosts on board the ship. Yeah, I agree, yeah. Like, I didn't want to be another one of those channels that just talks about ghosts all the time, you know? Like, you know, a couple of years ago, I was looking for videos about Queen Mary, and there was a few, but they told the same old information in a bullet point manner. And I thought, this is not something I would do. I would want to do it differently. And I thought to myself, why don't I? You know, I already have a channel. I already do stuff the way I would like to see it done. So I started doing Queen Mary videos. See you later, History with Swag. Ocean liners really reflect society. They do, yeah, they really do. They're like a time capsule of society, in fact. Oliver says, do you have a favorite series? You have to be more specific. Noob Gaming says, what is your favorite type of wood? Mine would be quilted maple. Yeah, quilted maple is really beautiful. Tiger oak is another really beautiful one. Tiger oak burr, I would say. Tiger oak burr is really beautiful, but quilted maple, there's something about it. It's like, it's magical when you look at it. Let's see. Oh, SM stands for social media. Okay, well, I forgot your question. Oliver says, why didn't Queen Mary stay in the UK? Because it would have been scrapped. So they were auctioning it off, and usually when they auction ships off, they are auctioned off to scrappers. Turned out that Long Beach had the highest bid, so that's what saved her. So that's why she went to Long Beach. Mark says, for my 50th birthday celebration, Mom and I flew from Australia to Long Beach, spent 3 nights aboard Queen Mary, and then flew to San Francisco and spent 4 nights at the Fairmont Hotel. Yeah, indeed. San Francisco is definitely magical. People always complain, they're like, oh, what about the crime and the homelessness? You know, the Democrats brought the crime and homelessness. I get so tired of hearing that, because it's not true. Yes, there is crime and homelessness, and it gets worse, but it's a really complex issue. There's always been crime and homelessness in San Francisco, and it was always really bad. There was never a time in San Francisco's history where it was a completely safe place to be. There was always, ask anybody who lived there. There were neighborhoods full of crime. You know, the neighborhood with all the Irish folks in it had gangs. You know, the area with the Italians, there was a huge it was a huge hub there for the mob. You know, and all the way back into when, you know, San Francisco was founded. You know, it was not a place for families. It was a place where miners and workers and stuff came to drink and go to saloons and, you know, do what they do in the afternoon, or the after hours, I mean. So, you know, San Francisco was always a really dangerous place. You just had to find the neighborhoods that were good. And neighborhoods, they go in and out of for lack of better words, I can't think of it, niceness. So some neighborhoods started off really poor and unsafe, and then, you know, today you go there and it's this beautiful, nice looking neighborhood. And vice versa, there are neighborhoods that, you know, that started off really bad. Well, no, started off really good and then went really bad. You know, so the city fluctuates as people move in and out of areas, and those areas become different. And, you know, and then when it comes to the homelessness, yeah, there's a higher amount of homelessness than there ever was. That's also because the population of the city is higher than it ever was. But also because, unfortunately, when you have cities like San Francisco that have a lot more opportunity than rural cities to give to people who are homeless, those homeless people tend to flock to the cities that give those offerings. Portland is one of those places. Portland has a really bad homeless problem. And people think that it's because everybody who lives in Portland went homeless. And that's not how it works. The reason why we have such a bad homeless problem is because, you know, this year we passed a bill that allowed them to spend $1 billion this year on opportunities for the homeless. Everything from food to housing to medical care, all that stuff. $1 billion this year. I think that's the highest any city has ever spent on homelessness. And what that does is it helps the people who are here, but then what happens is the homeless people across the country hear, hey, did you know that there's all these opportunities in Portland? There's a place to live, there's ways to eat, there's medical care. What do? They buy bus tickets, hop on trains, all that kind of stuff. They come to Portland. So that's kind of the issue that we face. And so I get really tired of hearing people be like, oh, look what happened to San Francisco. And it's like, it's really more a reflection of our country as a whole, honestly. Rant over. Let's Build says, have you ever thought or been to Disney World? You should really come to Epcot if you have not been. I have been to Disney World. I did not really like it, no. I prefer Disneyland. I think my favorite park at Disney World was Animal Kingdom, but I didn't really like Epcot. Thomas Brooks says, I know that the restaurants and space on Starboard Promenade deck of Queen Mary are important, and they help with revenue, but I think that it would be nice to do a full loop around Queen Mary's Promenade deck. Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to do a full loop, but yeah, even I had to concede that, you know, they earn a lot of money for the ship, and it's probably best that those restaurants stay there. Mark, you sailed back to Australia on the Queen Elizabeth? You mean the QE2 or the Queen Elizabeth cruise ship? Either way, that's, yeah, 30 nights. That's going to be expensive. Raitupiup says, do you like steam traction engines? I'm guessing you mean like the steam tractors that farmers used to use. If you're talking about those, then yes, I do like those. Why did SS Nomadic's bow look weird? I don't think it looks weird. It looks normal to me. Doc says, Tampa is home for me now. It's a great city, but I think you will adore New Orleans, Montreal, and Savannah if you ever get the chance. Fabulous history and all very walkable. You know, maybe someday, you know, I have dreams that what I want to do with this channel eventually is to be able to travel and go to different cities and show the historical areas of these cities and, you know, bring it to the channel. So, yeah, eventually I think I will be able to go to these major cities and stuff. Lenny McQueen says, have you ever opened the back doors on a vintage car? I don't think so. Is there something special about them? Noob Gaming says, what would you think would happen to the outcome of World War II if Queen Elizabeth or Queen Mary was sunk? I think for sure the war would have lasted much longer. And there would have been a hesitancy to transport people by ship, because if the Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth, you know, got sunk, then what chances did any other ship have of preventing that from happening? So it might have created a hesitancy to get on ships if that had happened. You know, but they looked at it as, well, look at these ocean liners. They're doing just fine. So, you know, I don't know how to put it into words, but Oliver says, what if shipping never industrialized? As in, steamships aren't developed. Well, that question kind of goes out of my range of what I focus on in the channel, because it has to do with cargo shipping. But I mean, right off the top of my head, my guess would be that the whole world would actually not be as modern as it looks today. Because one of the benefits of shipping is that we can take our goods and our ideas and move them around to different countries and share those goods and ideas with them, and vice versa. So I think that without it, we wouldn't have all the technical advancements we have today. It would have taken longer to reach this point. Fun Edit says, Alex, do you know what's the tallest building in the world? Yeah, the Burj Khalifa, which is in Dubai. Ocean Lover says, I understand that you don't like cruise ships, but have you ever been on a cruise, or would you consider going on one for pleasure? If you have, did you enjoy it? I've never been on a cruise, and I don't ever plan to go on one. It's really not my thing. You know, if I had to, I would go on a Cunard cruise. It just seems more dignified. But I don't like what cruises have to offer. They don't feel dignified. They feel like a giant party boat. And partying is not what I do. You know, maybe I'm boring or something, but it's not what I do. So that's why cruises don't appeal to me. I'm not a party person. And while there are other things to do besides party, that's really what cruise ships are for. That's the whole reason why you book them, is to drink, gamble, you know, play around, do something, you know. I'm not that person, you know. And the cruise ships, sometimes they take you on a little shuttle that will take you around a volcano, or take you on a helicopter ride over a glacier or something like that. That's not me either. I would not do that. I would not get on a little tiny boat and float around an active volcano. I would not get on a tiny little helicopter and fly above solid ice, you know? You know? That's not me. So yeah, so there's nothing on cruises that appeal to me at all. So I would never do one. Cunard maybe, because what Cunard does is a bit different. They're more dignified first and foremost. Their ships are not designed to be these big party ships. It's very much a classy experience. But also, when you do disembark, you disembark at historical cities and stuff that you can walk around and take tours. So that is more my thing. But I still wouldn't want to do that. I think the closest I'll ever get to cruising is taking a transatlantic crossing on the Queen Mary 2. And the only reason why I want to do that is because Queen Mary 2 is the last remaining ocean liner left in service, and I want to have the experience of doing a transatlantic crossing on a true ocean liner. So, yeah, I see myself doing that, but... Miss Erica says, I love watching your channel. It helps me a lot with anxiety. Oh, well, good. I'm glad. It's again, it's exactly why I do this. Annie Oaks says, is the Queen Mary open? No, she's not open. They were thinking the Queen Mary would open October 1st, but it's not looking like that's going to happen. It's looking like they might have to push back the date. So that's really sad, because if she was going to open October 1st, I was going to go down there and film the entire ship so I can make more content. But as usual, you see, there's something you guys need to know about me. I have the worst luck in the entire world. When it comes to me, anything that can happen bad will happen bad. And as soon as they say, oh, we're going to start opening the ship October 1st, I'm going, okay, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go there. I'm going to spend this many days. I'm going to spend this much money and, do all this planning. And then it just so happens that they're not going to be able to open on October 1st. So it's just my luck. Stephanie says, not even DCL. I'm sorry, I don't know what DCL is. Folks, if you're going to abbreviate, please don't. I'm really bad at abbreviations. People are abbreviating, what was that other one? SM or MS or whatever. I didn't even know what it was. Tanuki says, I saw an article on Inside the Magic that Disney's considering dropping Walt from the name of Walt Disney World and rebranding to just Disney World. You think the Disney company would do that? Yeah, I do think they would do that. I wouldn't put it past them to do something so stupid. I mean, I don't have any other words for it. It's stupid. I hope it's not true. I hope they don't do that. Again, that company and all those things that those people are paying for to go see would not have been possible without Walt Disney. So whatever people think of him, whether they don't like him or they do like him, nothing that they're doing on those properties would have been possible without him. You can't just erase him from history. It's, first of all, it's not fair. Second of all, it's ridiculous. This idea of just trying to erase things so we don't have to deal with them. Deal with them, it's... I think one of the whole reasons why Walt Disney is being canceled is because nobody wants to talk about him. Nobody wants to do the critical thinking, and by nobody, I don't mean you guys. I mean like the Disney company, for instance. There is tons of evidence against every accusation against Walt Disney. I've collected a lot of that evidence, and Disney has that evidence, and they have way more. They could easily put out educational documentaries about him that disprove these things. But they don't. Because it doesn't matter to them. As long as they earn money, they don't care what people say about Walt Disney. And true, the guy's dead. What do we care? But I care. I would hate for me to die and then people to take everything I've done out of context and be like, look, this guy is terrible. I've spent my life trying to do good things for not just my family and friends, but for my communities, places I go, the things I do. I always try to spend my life doing good things. And I would hate for somebody to make all these accusations about me being dead so I can't defend myself, there being evidence of the contrary, and nobody speaking up and saying anything about it. So, I feel like if there was open discussions happening and, people honestly trying to display real evidence and try to discuss these situations, have a back and forth within the Disney company and the public, that would be much better than just removing Walt Disney's name from Walt Disney World and removing his dedication speech from the Disneyland anniversaries. It's silliness. It's just silliness. Linda says, Inside the Magic always makes stuff up for clicks. I don't read Inside the Magic. There's a few Disney, what do you call them? Newspapers, I guess, that I choose not to read. And the reason why is because these websites, they used to be really good for news and information, because when they had news and information, they would give it to you. When they didn't have it, they didn't have it. And that was fine. But now they're a full-on business. They have to make money. You know, it costs them money to run the website. It costs them money to do the things they do. So they need to make that money back. They pay people to do the editing, to do the writing, to do the, you know, that costs a lot of money. So they must earn money constantly. And part of the way that they do that is, you know, they monitor what people are reading, so that way they can produce more of it if people are reading that, you know, and then they carefully track how much time you spend reading the article, so that way they know what articles are the most interesting, you know. So it's things like that. It's that hand tailoring is what makes the news not so much the news, you know. That's why we have things like tabloids. Like, I hate, like, waking up in the morning and seeing tabloids on my phone, like, oh, Queen Elizabeth had a stern talk with Prince William. I hate reading that stuff, because when you get down to it and you read it, you're like, oh, she told a joke to him. That was the stern talk. It was a joke, you know. Like, I hate stuff like that. It was like such a waste of time, you know. So when I read stuff like Inside the Magic, sometimes they do have good information, but most of the time you have to get through, you know, you have to scroll through ads to get to the gist of the story, and when you do, you realize it really wasn't a big story. It could have been told in 2 sentences. Which I'm now realizing the irony, because some people say that about my channel, so sometimes people don't like... I think one of the major things, I made a video called Why Ocean Liners Disappeared. That is the #1 video to get the #1 comment, and the #1 comment is usually a single word: airplanes. And I thought to myself, I understand that they don't have the patience to see, you know, a 10-minute long video, but the video is not about teaching people who know this stuff what happened. It's about teaching people who don't know this stuff what happened. And so, yeah, so I guess anything is really like that. It's not just Inside the Magic, but still, that's the reason why I don't watch that or read that stuff, so... Linda says, I'm sure Walt Disney has lots of folks who would defend him if given the chance. Oh, they do. They do, you know. Like, I have collected interviews that, not mine, I never conducted them, but I've collected interviews that were filmed of various Imagineers and people who knew Walt Disney, who were able to set the story straight, and who've been trying to set the story straight all their, you know, their retirement years. You know, Floyd Norman, first black Disney animator, he says nothing but good things about Walt Disney. He always tries to settle the old issues of racism and prejudice. You know, his #1 thing he always tells people is, look, Walt Disney was none of those things. If you were a good person, he liked you, and that's all there was to it. And that's because that was his experience with Walt Disney. You know, and so, but it's people like him. I've seen the Disney fan community, they go, oh, well, Floyd Norman is really not a good not a good source of information. And I'm like, why? Because he's saying what you don't want to hear? You know, like, I'm like, he knew Walt Disney. He worked for him for years. I'm like, and Walt and him had become kind of, I'm not going to say buddies because they weren't that close, but they had become good acquaintances, and they knew each other quite well, you know, and because Floyd Norman is like one of the key people you can ask about who Walt Disney really was, especially out of the sight of white people, he is a crucial piece of evidence to learning who that man was. And people discount him. They discount him because they say, well, he's not a good source. And I go, well, why isn't he a good source? And then they don't want to say, but I know the truth. The truth is people want to discount Floyd Norman because he's saying the opposite of what they want to hear. They want to hear that Walt Disney was this evil, racist man. And whatever doesn't fit into that context, whatever contradicts the things that they think they've seen and heard, they don't want to hear it. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. Lightning McQueen says, what was your first car? My first car, this is funny. My first car was a 87 Ford 1-ton van. It had no windows except for the side windows and the windshield, but everything else was sealed up. It used to be a carpet cleaning van, and some friends of mine had purchased the van on behalf of me. I paid for it, but they purchased it on behalf of me because I was too young. And I remember me and my friend fixed it up because it was in relatively working order. It's just it had some things that needed to be fixed. It needed to replace its carburetor. It needed a new, I don't know what you call it because it's not a computer chip. It was a very simplistic machine. We called it the brain. That's what we called it. It was a little box, and it had a few circuits in it, just enough to run the engine and the dashboard. And we bought a new one of those, and so we kind of fixed it up a little bit, and it didn't have seat belts. I had to install seat belts on it, and I did that by going to a scrapyard. I went into a van. So mine was an 87. I went into the 89 van, and the 89 van had seat belts. And so I pulled the seat belts from the 89 van and installed them in my 87. So that was my car, and I remember the last time I ever drove it. The last time I ever drove my van, I was on my way to work. I was working at Disney at the time, and I'm getting up to this busy intersection, and the light turns red, so I start applying the brakes to slow down. I'm pressing, and my foot just keeps going and going and going. I'm like, where's the brake? Where's the brake? And my foot keeps going all the way to the floor. The brake pedal was not responding. There was air in the brake line. And and so I keep coasting, and I'm like, oh no. So I reach for the emergency brake, which on that van, it's not like a thing you pull. It was like a little tab, and you pull the tab on your left side, and it pulls a cable, and the cable tightens up the brakes. I'm pulling the cable, and I guess I wasn't strong enough. It was not pulling the brakes closed. So I sailed right through that intersection while cars are going right through. I swear it was the scariest experience of my life. I'm sitting there just, and I made it all the way through the intersection. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got in a crash. Nobody, dented each other or anything. I made it right through that. And the first thing I did is I put on my hazard lights and I pulled over. And I was so freaked out. I called my friend, because my friend, he has a tow truck. So I called my friend. I was like, I need you to come get my van. I was like, I don't know what went wrong, but the brakes don't work. And so we bring it back. And this is also part of the cool story about it, though. We bring it back to his neighborhood. And he goes, okay, this is it's a really old van. When you get air in your brakes with this particular van, he goes, there's something cool you could do. So he's in the driver's seat. We're in the middle of this neighborhood street. He floors it in reverse. Floors the car in reverse. And I'm like, what are you doing? The brakes don't work. And, we're entering a school zone even, and he's still flooring it. And finally he lets go of the gas, and he just pumps the brakes. And as he's pumping the brakes, you can hear this like, it sounds like a gear. It's like, and what was happening was it was forcing air out of the brake line, and it was, allowing the hydraulic fluid to get in there, the brake fluid, and that fixed it. So, but that was the last time I ended up driving that van, because it needed to have its tires replaced soon after, and I was like, I don't have the money for this, and so I ended up staying at his property, and he kept it, and I have no idea what he did with it since then. But that was my first car. That was a crazy story. Let's see. Lighthouse View says, "Hey Alex, been loving your content. Thank you so much." Ocean Lover says, "Thank you for the live chat. Hope you have a great evening. You too." Ken says, "Did they use special fuel when the Queen Mary made ultra high speed runs? I remember a tour guide on Queen Mary said that years ago when I visited." As far as I know, they didn't use special fuel on ultra high speed runs, but from what my friend Steve had told me was that so it was kind of interesting. I think a lot of people know that Queen Mary's fastest recorded speed was 32.84 knots. Well, Steve was telling me that there was a time when Queen Mary reached almost 39 knots. I said, "What? Wait, hold on. How was that possible?" And he said, well, during World War II, he said, because they were in such a hurry to get the troops across the oceans without being torpedoed, if they knew that they were entering a particularly dangerous zone, the captain would order the safety valves and systems in the boiler rooms to be disengaged. So however they would do that. They would disengage it. And that allowed them to build up the steam pressure higher than what was normally safe. That allowed them to run the engines faster than what they were normally designed to do safely. And they could make a quick sprint across the dangerous area at about 39 knots. Fastest is what they saw, 39 knots. And there's a page from a book I have. Steve was looking for the research to tell me this, but he has somewhere a card, right? They're called abstract logs. So he has an abstract log somewhere of one of the voyages during World War II, and it shows that in a particular area they went about 38 knots. But he happened to find a book, and I took a screenshot of what he told me, but it's on my computer. And he found in a book that on page 52 of some book, the person who was telling the story said that they could see the ship approaching 39 knots during World War II. Again, during World War II. So if all this is true, Queen Mary was capable of going much faster than what most people think she was capable of doing. But granted, that is with the caveat that her safety systems were disengaged, so that does play a part in the story. Sorry, I scheduled an Instacart shopper to buy stuff. And they told me so. I ordered more supplies to make more cucumber sandwiches. The Instacart shopper tells me that the store has no more dill. Cool. He's going to get me chives instead. Isn't technology amazing? I can pay someone to shop for me. And then when they can't find what they need, I can tell them, oh, well, substitute it with this. Gosh, technology is fantastic. Okay, so let's see. Let's get back to your questions here. Uh-oh. Now what? That's interesting. Okay, so back to the questions. Let's see. Haley says, how do you feel when YouTubers or articles give incorrect facts about Disney parks? Well, I think I'd like to think I feel the same as what most people would feel when they discover incorrect information. At first, I feel a bit annoyed. But I also have to remember that that sometimes, because in my research, I've gotten things wrong too, and I've discovered that usually the reason why is because there's contradicting information. So some people, they watch my channel for the first time, they see something that is said incorrectly, and they jump on it and they go, "Oh, you did terrible research because you got this one thing wrong." And I try to tell them, well, look, here's my sources. This is wrong because apparently there's a discrepancy. These two different books say two different things about the same subject. And so I have to remember that sometimes when people talk about like Disney history, for instance, and they get something wrong, it's usually because the source that they had didn't have the correct information in there. And there's a lot of books. I have some books that have incorrect information in it. Like, one of the books I love to read, but I know has a few bits of incorrect information, is called Walt Disney's Disneyland by Chris Nichols. It's a good book otherwise. It's got great photos and lots of information, but through the book, occasionally I encountered things that were just really not true, you know. And then when I was a cast member, people were buying up all these books called like the Book of Hidden Mickeys or something like that. I have the book down there somewhere. And people were always like talking about, oh, here's a hidden Mickey in Disneyland and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not a real hidden Mickey. The book just says it is, but it's not, you know, and stuff like that. So I try to remember that not everybody can have the correct information all the time. So, oh yeah, Oliver. I don't like when people purposely take stuff out of context too. Like, Conrad says, I bet that van always smelled fresh because it was a carpet cleaning van. Actually, it smelled the opposite. The van didn't smell terrible, but it smelled like chemicals. It smelled like ammonia. Because while it was a carpet cleaning van, and yeah, they do carry carpet shampoo, it smelled heavily like chemicals. It smelled like ammonias and detergents and stuff like that. And the terrible part was, so the van, it was a big open thing because that's where all the machinery was. But since the machinery was all gone, because, you know, they sold it, the floor of the van was completely eaten away. Like, it was rusted through. You could put your finger through the floor of the back of the van. And that was because the chemicals over the years just ate away through the metal. So we had to put plywood flooring back there, which was cool because when I took that van camping, because I used to go camping a lot with my friends, when I took that van camping, I could sleep in the van, which was way better than sleeping in the tents. Because, I mean, I won't knock it too much. Sleeping in tents is kind of cool. But ever since that mountain lion was, like, trying to get into my tent, I did not want to sleep in tents anymore. So it was cool to be able to sleep in the van. But the van was very cold. There was no insulation. And one night it came down to nearly freezing. And the floor of the van is almost eaten away. So all there is plywood between me and the outside world. And it was so cold, but it's still better than sleeping outside. Oliver says, if you could raise any shipwreck, what would it be? I mean, I don't know. I suppose Titanic. Yeah, Conrad says vans make great vehicles because you can sit up high and see over most other vehicles. Yeah, I agree. Mark says, I love your story about your 87 Ford van. Yeah. It was a screaming metal death trap. I remember when I would drive to work, I worked at Disney, so I would park in the parking lot for cast members. And I remember, like, sometimes my coworkers, they would need, like, a ride home at the end of the night. So I'd offer to give them a ride home. And I swear, when they would, So my coworker would come with me. We'd get on the Cassenberg shuttle to the parking lot. We get to the parking lot. It's late at night, like 2 in the morning. We're walking through the parking lot, and they're like, "Where's your car?" And they're looking, and there's no other cars around except my van, and it's all the way in the corner of the parking lot where there's no lights, and the van is completely without windows. And so they're looking at it, and they're like, I'd be like, yeah, it's a creepy van, but I swear, nothing will happen to you. So, yeah, those were fun days. Those were really fun days. Modcat says, did Queen Mary have a sister ship? Technically, Queen Elizabeth was not a sister ship of Queen Mary, but I like the way my friend Steve said it. He says Queen Elizabeth was a companion ship because it wasn't just a running mate. Like Aquitania was a companion ship. Let me think. A running mate is another ship that runs with a ship of a certain line. So, Mauretania 2 was a running mate of Queen Elizabeth, or Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. But Queen Elizabeth was so closely related to Queen Mary. The two ships, I mean, not the people. Well, the people were closely related. But the Queen Elizabeth ship was very closely related to Queen Mary, so much so that saying that they were running mates isn't enough. But saying that they were sister ships is going too far. So he says he calls them companion ships because they were designed to work together and they were designed to look similar. And I would have to agree with that. So I call them companion ships now. Yeah, I don't drive anymore, folks. So while I was working at Disney, I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, and that affected my ability to drive. So I actually have hallucinations when I drive. That's not safe. And I have really bad anxiety when I drive, so I don't drive anymore. The last time I drove, I was driving a moving truck, and I was having all kinds of like weird hallucinations late at night. Then I fell asleep at the wheel. I woke up just as I saw the truck was heading straight for a concrete barrier in the middle of the freeway. I swerved out of the way right at the last minute. And yeah, I finished driving to my destination, but I never drove again after that. So, yeah. That's why when people ask, they're like, "How come you don't have a PO box? Why don't you just drive to the post office once in a while to pick up fan mail and stuff from a PO box?" Because I don't drive. I can't drive. So, Lighthouse says, what do you think of companies proposing restoration on ships like the United States? Sometimes I ponder why can't they look more original? You mean original as in the way they used to look? It's a really long story, and I have videos about that. But ultimately, the most simple answer I can give you in a short span of time is because if they were brought back to how they originally looked, including their interior spaces and the sizing of those spaces, it couldn't earn enough money today. There's not enough rooms to occupy the amount of passengers you would need to make the voyages on those ships make money. And even then, you really don't know how many people will want that experience. You know, there's a reason why Queen Mary was retired. It wasn't just because she was expensive to run. I mean, yes, that played a huge part, but when you really think about it, she didn't have, towards the end of her career, she was sometimes only carrying, a couple hundred people, maybe not even, towards the last of her voyages, she only had like a couple dozen passengers aboard. And, you know, so there's a reason why those ships don't sail anymore. It's not because someone just randomly decided to take them out of service. You know, and I know nobody says that, but I swear, sometimes when people comment on my videos and say, no, if you bring the Queen Mary back to her original appearance and you start sailing her as an ocean liner, you can bet that will be a busy ship. And I'm like, no, because then why wasn't it busy in 1967? You know, why did she have to be scrapped so early? The reason why is because there just aren't that many people who are interested in a traditional ocean liner experience. There are people, yes. Are there enough? No. So, you know, that's why. But yeah, that's why that's why these companies who propose things for the SS United States, they always propose something that looks very different. And the reason why is because they know what will make them money, and that's the only option for a ship like that. So Linda Silly says, Alex, you're so patient and nice about incorrect information. We all make mistakes. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've had to learn patience over my life, you know. I'm not always patient, I'll admit that. You know, occasionally I do lose my temper on things, but I try to be more understanding because I see how many people get impatient with me, and I think, how awful does that feel when someone yells at me over something that, you know, wasn't necessary to yell at me over. And I think, you know, I don't want to treat other people like that, because it feels really cruddy to be treated that way, especially online. The most bullying that happens in this world now happens online for the craziest reasons. You know, people sending me death threats because they don't like the way my thumbnail looks on a video. I'm like, who does that? You know? So Linda, for your question, they were aiming to reopen the Queen Mary on October 1st, but they're thinking that itself might have to be delayed. They don't know if it'll be ready for October 1st. So, but as for a solid date, nobody knows. All right. Daniel says, what train would you love to ride on back then? Any train I would love to ride on in the past is still available today. So technically I can still ride on them. So, you know, there's a place called the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railway in Maine. And that's a beautiful railroad. I would love to ride on that railroad. And you can. It's a railroad museum, so you can. You know, there's also Durango and Silverton. I do have... Eventually, I have a dream to visit the Durango and Silverton and ride on the trains there. And then there's also the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad. That's not high up on my list, but it's still on my list. So, yeah, most of the railroads I do want to ride on still exist today, and I can if I wanted to. Ken says, those old Ford vans were road warriors. They really were. They really, really were. And the parts were so easily interchangeable. It was crazy. It was like, you know, you can see why people wanted Fords back then. Was because they were so easy to replace parts and find new parts. I mean, you know, yeah. Conrad says, have we heard the story of the mountain lion? The one that was near my tent? So we used to go camping, and we would bring our dirt bikes and quads and stuff, and we would ride up into the hills and stuff during the daytime. And we used to sleep in tents. So we brought like 5 different tents with us and whatever, and we would have to share tents and stuff with our friends. There was a bunch of us. We were all like a bunch of friends and whatever. So, but yeah. So I was sharing a tent with my friend, and I wake up in the middle of the night because I hear rustling. Now, we were out in the middle of the desert, like the deserts. There's no trees. There were bushes, but very few of them because it was like, you know, practically near Death Valley. So So we're out there, and it's dead silent through the night. But we are surrounded by tall hills. And I'm going to prepare another cup of tea, because this tea is not cold. Or it's cold, it's not warm anymore, so... So I remember I wake up in the middle of the night because I hear noise, and you don't usually hear noise. And I thought at first it might have been my friend turning over, but what it was there was something outside the tent, and it was kind of walking around, and its feet was disturbing the sand. And I'm like looking, and I'm looking, and it's really dim. It's really dark. I don't think there was... No, there was a moon out, because there was moonlight, but I could barely see a shadow against the tent, and it looked like a big animal on 4 legs. And I'm going through my head, I'm like, there's no bears, there's no tigers, but there's lions. And so this thing is like sniffing the tent, and I see like it pawed at the tent, and I just kind of sat there like motionless, and it walked away for a little bit. It went to the other tents. I heard it growl, and then it came back to my tent, and it pawed at it a little bit more, and my friend did shuffle in their sleep, and that's what disturbed the mountain lion, and I heard it run off. Yeah, that was a scary time. I remember that. That was pretty scary. But, you know, quite often, we would wake up in the morning, and you'd open your tent, and there'd be, like, paw and hoof prints everywhere. Were there hoof prints? Well, I mean, there was hoof prints when we were at the at that one forest. But in the desert, there'd be paw prints and stuff everywhere. So you'd see, like, fox prints. You'd see, like mountain lion prints. But yeah, that morning when we did go outside, I remember telling my friends, I'm like, I swear there was a mountain lion out there, and they're like, what? And I'm like, there was. And we went to the back of my tent, and I was looking carefully at the sand, and the sand was very compacted there, so there wasn't much footprints, but I did find one, and it was big. And I was like, look. And they looked, and they're like, whoa. And I was like, yeah. So that was an interesting time. You know, I was young, so camping was kind of cool to me. Like, it was interesting and exciting. But, you know, I don't have that kind of bravery today. If I had to deal with that today, I mean, I don't even know. I need to, like, dump this out. Hold on, I'm going to dump the... Because there's still tea in here, but it's ice cold, and it's overly, what's the word? Strong. So I just diluted the tea that's in here with fresh boiling water. Okay, I'm going to preheat this again, because now the cup is ice cold. There we go. Nice and hot. Okay. Swag says, hey Alex, I missed the 30K live stream. Congrats. Thank you so much. Yeah, now I'm almost at, well, I'm at 31.5K now, which is pretty cool. So that'll keep going as I add more videos to my collection. which I am working on videos. I know, folks, it's been weeks since I put out a history video of any kind. I know, I was taking time off because of that heat wave, and I didn't have the air conditioner back then, and, you know, and it was, you know, I was also getting burnt out of a lot of things, but I'm getting back into the mix. You know, I've been working on my next history video, which is about the French Quarter at New Orleans. Oh, that does bring me to a question I have. So this Friday, since I don't have a video ready yet, I'm going to do a live stream. Somebody wants me to do a live stream to show them how to fire up a steam engine, and I have a railroad simulator that closely simulates how to operate a steam locomotive, like a steam train. And someone wants me to show them how to fire that up accurately. And so I thought that'd be kind of cool, you know. It's my Disneyland Railroad Simulator, but in the past, I usually do the quick fire up for that, so it's already warm, it's already ready to go, pretty much. But this person wants me to fire it up, like, right from the start. So do you guys want to see that? Like, do you want to see me, like, literally, like, you know, turn all the knobs and whistles and stuff and, like, have the thing heat up and then take it around Disneyland on the simulator? So let me know if you want to, if that's what you want to see this Friday. So, because that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, now this tea has the correct ratio of water to brewed tea. I can tell by the color of the milk once I put it in. Let's Build says, if you could bring back one ride at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, what would it be? Well, I don't care about Walt Disney World, but at Disneyland, the People Mover. I know everyone says that, but, you know, I got to ride the People Mover before it closed. I remember it as a very little kid, and I loved it. It was great. Oliver says, why is the sinking of Wilhelm Gustloff so overlooked? I guess because no one created a romance movie about it. Honestly, I'm going to be totally honest. I think it's because no one made a major movie about it. People in society, and this is no secret, everybody knows this, people in society are really influenced by movies. You know, and so when you got movies like Titanic, that really influences who's interested. I mean, look at what happened when, you know, when Steven Spielberg put out Jurassic Park in 1993. All of a sudden, there was a huge boost in numbers of young people who were seeking to get their credentials for being paleontologists and paleobotanists. That drove up the interest in being a paleontologist, you know, I think 20 times more. And most of the paleontologists that are out there today will claim that Jurassic Park got them interested in it. So honestly, don't underestimate the power of a movie. And I think that all the movies made about Titanic, especially the last one, James Cameron's Titanic, had such huge influences on people. And that's why ships like Gustloff, you know, even though it killed way more people, don't get the limelight because no one made a movie about it, or at least not a really popular movie. So, Modcat says, why don't you like talking about Olympic class ships? Well, basically the reason why is because, like I always say, the people who like Olympic class ships, let me take a sip of this. The people who like Olympic class ships is basically the Titanic community for the most part. Everybody in the Titanic community has their own understanding of those ships, how they operated, how they were built. Everybody has a completely different opinion on it. And I've noticed that anybody who tries to talk about those ships gets met with a lot of corrections. Whether or not their information is correct, they still get met with a lot of corrections. Because everybody knows about it, everybody does videos on it, everybody talks about it. So it's not like when I talk about Queen Mary and I talk about something that almost nobody's never heard of, when I talk about that, what I get in response is a lot of like, oh wow, that's actually fascinating, you know, because it's not something everybody's heard. But when I talk about anything Titanic, everybody's heard it a million times. And if I say it in a certain way that doesn't suit how they want to hear it, they'll be like, no, the correct information is this, this, and that. And then you get 100 other people in the comments section with 100 different variations of that same information. And so it's a mess. It's a huge can of worms, and I don't want to go down that road. So, a road full of can of worms that are messy. Ratupiup says, remember to bring a shotgun camping next time. I don't plan on going camping anymore. I'm getting too old for that. Maybe not physically, but in my head I am. But yes, I would feel safer with a gun. Gary Owen, I don't drink iced tea. I don't like the way it tastes. Okay, well, Linda will be there when I do the Steam Simulator fire up. It'd be cool if more people would show up, too. 'Cause the more the merrier. So. Gary says, how old are you? I'm 30. Modcat says, have you ever cruised before? No, I don't plan to. I'm not a cruise ship person. This Scottish shortbread is so good. Alex White says, ever been in Chattanooga? I've never been in Chattanooga. Oliver says, I can't wrap my head around how guns are legal in some countries. Guns are outlawed in the UK other than for military or police services. Yeah, I mean... And guns are a really divisive topic here in the US. I mean, extremely divisive. To the point where you can't really even talk about it. Because if you choose one side or the other, you're going to make someone very, very angry. Now, I'm open to talking about both sides of the conversation. I see the gun argument in both ways. So I'm not one of those people that's immediately like, no, get rid of them all. Or one of those people that says, no, keep them all. Let's have more. Like, I'm neither of those. I see the argument from both sides. I acknowledge that there are solutions both ways. You know, I have some friends who are extremely against guns. They want all guns banned. I have some friends who are pro-guns, and they want more of them. And so I see it both ways, you know. I have my own opinions on what should be done, But even then, I have to admit to myself, I'm not an expert. I honestly, if someone asked me, if the President of the United States came up to me right now and said, what would you do about the gun situation in this country? I would say, Mr. President, I have no clue. Because you can't just outright ban them here. We're a very large country. Many people in the U.S. need guns to survive. It's, again, a very large country. So some people live in very rural areas where guns are a necessity. But then you come to, like, cities where nobody needs a gun in a city. And, in fact, it only does worse things when someone has a gun in a major city. Because, I mean, let's face it, you can't shoot that gun anywhere without hitting someone innocent. You know, so it's just, there's times and places for guns, I think. And what scares me, though, is there are people who, I don't think they fully respect guns. They preach and preach about how, oh, I take guns very seriously, and I show a lot of respect, but then they go around and they tell their friends, look at my new toy. And I'm like, I would never call a gun a toy. That sounds like a complete disrespect of a gun. It's a very powerful machine, So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there are way too many people in this country who probably shouldn't have access to guns. And then there are way too few people in this country who could really use one. So it's a really divisive topic, and it's really difficult because I honestly don't know the solution. I really don't. Gary says, I figured you were my age when you brought up Modern Marvels on your last video. Yeah, and I remember the stuff that came before Modern Marvels too. When I was a little kid, I would watch the History Channel with my grandmother and stuff. So I used to love the History Channel when they told history. But Modern Marvels is cool, though. The Jagoti Show says, do you prefer Lusitania or Mauretania? I prefer Mauretania. Lightning McQueen says, do you like cheese? I love cheese. Cheese is good. Some of the best American cheeses, such as, American cheddar, American Monterey. Monterey is naturally American anyway. Are made here in Oregon by the Tillamook Company. Tillamook, I don't know if you've ever had it. If you live in the U.S. and you've seen it on your store shelves, buy some Tillamook products. They're really good. When it comes to, like, traditional American cheeses, like when you have Monterey Jack on your hamburgers, or when you use pepper jack or something in your Mexican food or something, Tillamook makes really good versions of those. Now, outside of American cheeses, if I want to get, like, imported cheeses or something, some of my favorite cheeses are, let's see, the best cheese that I've ever had, that I prefer, is Dauphinois cheese. So it's called Fromage Dauphinois. It's really good. It's a lot like Brie, except better. So, yeah. Oh, man. Now that I'm thinking about Dauphinois cheese, I'm like, I really wish I had it. They used to not sell it in any grocery stores. You had to go to a cheese place to get it. And now sometimes you see them in grocery stores, which is interesting. So that'll be kind of cool. Maybe I should go get some Dauphinois. Tanuki says, adding to your point of entertainment, inspiring people to pursue certain careers, I think of the original Epcot Center and how that inspired many people to pursue science, history, etc. Yep, exactly. Right, Tupiep says, would you ever do a cruise if they used Queen Mary too? Yeah, I mean, I was saying even half an hour ago that that any if I were to ever do a cruise, it would be with a Cunard ship. So even if it wasn't Queen Mary 2, I would still do it with Cunard if I had to. That's not to say that I'm going to volunteer to do a cruise. Cruises don't interest me, but of any cruise company, it would be with Cunard. Gary says, I see both sides of the gun argument too, but something has to be done about all these senseless deaths. Not sure what the answer is either, but we need to figure it out. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I see it every day now. It's like every day, because I get stuff on my newsfeed. Every day, a place in... Hold on. Someone's at the door. Sorry, you guys. My grocery order got delivered. And what's really cool is it got delivered early, too, because I wasn't expecting it until at least exactly 6 o'clock. So he's here 5 minutes early. That is really cool. So I'll have to put that away soon. But what was I saying? Yes. So every day I see new reports of mass shootings. It's sad. It's really sad. And the whole country is on edge too because, you know, like now whenever there's a loud noise that happens at a major public event, everybody takes off running. This is what it's brought us to. So, you know, it's and then to see innocent children, innocent people put in the line of fire, it is so sad. I wish that that something could be done right now about it. I wish that there was a solution. So, but the thing is that I think it's such a complex situation that there really is no solution. Honestly, I'm going to take a moment to get a little dark here, but I honestly feel like in this country there is no solution to that, because if you make it too strict, if you try to make owning a gun too difficult, or heck, even remove them altogether, you're literally going to make a huge amount of this country upset about that, and it will probably create larger problems than it's worth. But then on the other hand, if you don't do anything, more people are going to keep dying. And there are some people like the NRA, the National Rifle Association, they're awful. Now, I have family that owns guns. Love them to death, and I trust their judgment 100%. But the National Rifle Association, I don't like them. Because they go out of their way to be evil. Out of their way to be evil. They don't want a single regulation on guns. Not a single one. They won't say that. They'll tell people, well, yes, we need gun safety. But then when you look at their politics and what they do, they try to remove everything. They're going after every regulation and trying to remove them. I don't like the National Rifle Association. They really don't care about anybody except the money that they make. But such is the case with the meat industry in our country, such is the case with, with the general industries that come with farming. All these major organizations are ripping people off. So it's not exactly a new story here in the United States. John says, where do you buy your loose tees? Amazon, pretty much. I mean, and the companies I buy from is Twinings. They have really good tees. And they're authentically British, so that's where I get them. Mark says, we have the same in Australia. Some members of regional community require guns. What we do have is very strict laws as to who can obtain the license. It is legal to own a firearm without the license. Yeah, it's supposedly like that here in the U.S., but there are some loops that people get around. All right. Mike says, I'm back. What did I miss? You missed a lot of political talk. Gary says, remember when the lady from the NRA was arguing with the Parkland shooting survivors? Yes. That's what I'm talking about, evil. Because they don't care. The NRA organization does not care about people. They care about their guns. You know, it's like I said, I have family who owns guns. I trust their judgment. These family members, I would trust them with my life around their guns, because I know that they take things very seriously and they treat it with respect. But the NRA is full of rich people who've become rich from their gun industry, and they don't care who dies. They don't care how many people die. They don't even care if more will die. All they care about is making sure that they get more money. Again, that's not a new thing. It's like that for almost every major industry in this country. But still, it's not a pleasant feeling knowing that an organization that's designed to try to keep you safe is an organization that's asking for less regulation. That's scary. It's really scary. So, yeah. But anyway, folks, that is a lot of politics for today, but I have this rule when it comes to politics. My rule is, let's not beat people up for what they think or what they believe, but let's still talk about it. That's kind of my thing about politics is we should at least be open to hearing other people's ideas. I'm open to hearing everybody else's ideas on here, you know. So I try not to I try to make it very open. Like I like conversation. I think that we learn more things when people are open to listening to stuff. I think there's a lot of divisiveness happening all over the world. Polarization. People either being too liberal or too conservative about everything. And I think that if we have open discussions, we'll learn something from each other and kind of understand, like, there's more to the story than just this side or that side. So, because I see what the polarizing is doing to this country, and it's really sad. It's really sad. So, yeah. All right, folks. So this Friday, I'm gonna do a, let's see, there's still 35 people watching. This Friday, I'm gonna do a live stream where I go on my railroad simulator and I will show you guys how to steam up an old steam engine. It's a 440, so it's an American type. And I'll show you how to do that from a cold engine all the way to operational. And it is a Disneyland railroad simulator, so we'll be going around Disneyland on that engine. But yeah, so it is a little bit different than the two live streams I've done about it in the past, in the sense that instead of just getting going and going in circles, we'll spend a great deal of time firing it up. So I think that'll be interesting, and I think that the railroad enthusiasts who've subscribed to my channel will definitely find that fun. Now, I've got to put away these groceries, and then I have to continue working on my next history video, which, if you guys are wondering, the next history video it's about the history of the French Quarter in New Orleans, and I'm thinking it will be ready for the public to view next Friday. And then after that, there should be a steady schedule coming back of videos every week. So it's just that it took a lot of, like, you guys should see my source list, because I've created a list of sources for how I got all my information about New Orleans. It is a long list. So I've been doing a lot of research the past week to make this video so far, and now I've gotten past the research, I've gotten past the narration, I just have to put the video together. So next Friday is when it'll be ready. Until then, we'll be doing live streams of various kinds to kind of keep everybody interested. So, yeah. Alright, folks, thank you all for watching. I gotta finish this up later. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.